with a former writer referring to his job in WWE creative as thankless and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for January 23rd. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. When it comes to whose idea it was for Britt Baker to share a kiss with her boyfriend Adam Cole on Dynamite, she spoke on My Mom's Basement, revealing that it was a suggestion from Matt Jackson. We both wanted to do it. We also didn't want to jump the gun. It had to make sense. It had to be the right time, right place, right people, right story. This was just perfect. That was Matt Jackson's idea actually. The Bucks are absolutely hilarious, hysterical people. Talking about getting her start in pro wrestling, Baker heaped praise on Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae for helping her. It was so cool. He's just so innovative. I love training because he would take the most basic, simple concept of chain wrestling but make it look flashy and cool. It's what he's famous for. But he made it so easy for us. Anybody that was early on in wrestling, all of us sucked. We weren't good yet. We were all trainees. But to have that, you get so excited going to training because you just know I'm going to learn something cool today. I'm going to be able to put in a match. People are going to think I'm flashy, and that's why I was going to Cleveland at the time. I'd learned the basics. I'd learned the fundamentals, the headlock, the chin lock, the drop down. I knew all that. I didn't know putting a little spaz, a little pizzazz on matches, and that's what he helped me with. After having an incredible run on NXT, Karrion Kross would find himself floundering on the main roster before getting released from WWE. Speaking about his time in the company, Kross told the Wrestle Rap podcast that I learned so much in my entire experience with that company, with NXT and the main roster. I feel like a more complete version of myself actually going through that entire experience. There were different challenges on the main roster than there were in NXT. One of them, and this might not translate to a lot of people, but this is like just having your times changed when you're out there, and that happened pretty frequently. Having the confidence to go out there and perform live while the entire world is watching and change things on the fly when somebody else's life is completely in your hands. That's just a lot going on. Talking about his character on the main roster of WWE, Kross noted that I knew that people were going to understand. This is not a misstep of my accord. I didn't really inherit the situation as, say, I walked out on the indies as Psycho Doink the Clown. Like imagine Sid Vicious with the Doink mask on and just walking out and people are going, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, you're on the independents, so you can't be like, somebody told me to do it. It was your idea. And with this particular situation, wasn't. And I knew that was going to be very transparent. Speaking with Muscle and Fitness, AEW star Bryan Danielson touched on potential future opponents, noting that he is interested in facing up-and-comers in the promotion. I feel better at 40 than I did at 30. I'm super excited. And it's crazy because it seems like AEW keeps adding people to the roster on a weekly basis. But there's a lot of matches that I'm really looking forward to. I'd love to wrestle Darby Allin. I'd really love to wrestle Sammy Guevara, Daniel Garcia, MJF. There are all these people. And then there's like the big one. And I've wrestled him before, but it would be CM Punk. That would be really cool. Bryan would go on to mention that he'd like to have a match with the recently returned Jon Moxley. I'd love to wrestle Moxley in this AEW scenario versus the WWE scenario, you know what I mean? Where we are a little bit freer and more unleashed, because I think he's fantastic. There's one more that would just be super cool for the fans, and for the kid inside of me, and that would be Sting. Speaking to Renee Paquette, former WWE writer Kazim Fumiyid mentioned his release from the company in 2019, noting that he had a thankless and tiring job. I got fired, so to be fair, on the creative side of getting ideas together and putting things together, I think I did pretty well. But WWE, especially in the inside and the executive side, there's certain things, certain concepts that I just, to be fully transparent, wasn't catching as quickly as I assumed they would like me to catch. Certain talents, they threw you right on the road. Usually every writer I talked to while I was there was like, oh, I did home team for a bit. Home team is basically where you're writing the show from Stanford. You're giving ideas. You're in the big office every day and you're just kind of in this think tank of creativity. Whereas the away team is on the road. You're like a road producer and you're with the talent all the time. I was thrown on the road immediately. I was hired on a Wednesday and then I was at Money in the Bank Sunday. So it was a lot thrown at me really quickly. And I understand what they were trying to do. It was definitely a trial by fire over there, and I think I succeeded at certain points. I started to get worn down also, and they could start to see it in me. It's a tiring, thankless job. It's very thankless, and I had a lot of other opportunities out there. I want to say my 11th month, going into my 1-year anniversary of being there, I got taken off the road team, and I was on the home team for like the last month. So I was like, writing's on the wall, let me see what else is out there. And then, lo and behold, 3 weeks later, they were like, it's not really working out, but we still like you, and maybe something can happen down the line. One of the most fun tag teams in WWE, Cryme Time, never became tag champions in the company, but were fan favorites. Recalling his time working for the promotion, JTG noted that while I was in WWE, I definitely felt like we, Shad and I, were shafted. Post-WWE career, looking back, I believe having the fans, being the fan favorites, is way more important than being tag team champions. You know what I mean? Because they choose. The company chooses who they put the tag team titles on, but they can't choose who they want the fans to love. We'll always be fan favorites. We earned that. WWE didn't give that to us. Vince, when I was there, he wasn't very hard to get in. I mean, you just had to be patient because he's got a lot of things going on. Yet you could definitely knock on his door. He'll give you a minute or two. You just have to have the balls to go knock on his door. While he's held the Raw and SmackDown tag titles along with the US World Heavyweight and WWE titles, Sheamus has always come up short when challenging for the Intercontinental Championship. Talking on WWE's The Bump, Sheamus noted his plans to become the first Ultimate Grand Slam champ, one title away from becoming the first ever Ultimate Grand Slam champion. I know what you were probably thinking. You were thinking Edge did all that. Edge has won everything. But the truth of the matter is, it is just a bleeding sham, because Edge won his US Championship when it was WCW, so that is automatically disqualified. So I am now on the verge of something fantastic. Shinsuke Nakamura is going to hide behind that Rick Boogs lad. He's going to hide behind a little broken hand, a sore hand, some cuts on his hand, or pick an opponent like Sami Zayn, who's, let's be honest, does not look like he has had a shave in the last 10 years. I don't care. I just want my opportunity at the Intercontinental Championship. I said it when I went to SmackDown, and then I got drafted to Raw and the title stayed on SmackDown. It's been a year. I became US champ. It was awesome. It was great. I had some banger match after banger match, and now I'm back on SmackDown. That was the one thing that I was watching when the draft was happening. I was watching where that Intercontinental title was going. Once it stayed, I was like all eyes on that SmackDown title. With her looking to make a return to WWE for the Women's Royal Rumble, Michelle McCool explained her motivation to come back on Busted Open Radio. I got a phone call from Talent Relations right about Christmas time. John Cohn called and said, "We're doing a Rumble. Just wanted to gauge and see if you had any interest in Ding It." I thought, oof, we're about to go to Colorado for 10 days, which sets me back in my training. Let me think about it. I'm very honored and flattered. Let me see. I thought about it, talked it over with Mark, and was like, you don't get this opportunity opportunity too much. I'm super grateful for it. It gives me a chance to show my daughter Kaya and son Colt that I'm a little scared, but you can be scared and still go out there and be brave and overcome challenges. That was the motivation behind it. I was like, I'm gonna need your help and motivation, but mommy is scared. She knows he can do this, but I have to train hard, put in the work, let's do it. That was my motivation. McCool would also note that she has an issue with Charlotte Flair playing the role of a queen. I would like to mix it up with Charlotte because whether or not she knows, I kind of have a bone to pick with her because every time she's on her TV, my little 2-year-old goes, "Mommy, mommy." I'm like, that is not mommy. Mommy is right here. She plays a queen. I am the queen. As tensions continue to rise between MJF and Wardlow, the big man recently said on 98 Rock Baltimore that he'd be a better leader for his faction. With Wardlow leading the Pinnacle, I think we would be the definition of the name the Pinnacle, truly. But obviously, with a certain individual in that group, that will never be the case. What does the Pinnacle look like without Wardlow? They look much, much more weak, and I don't think they'd be able to call themselves the top of the top. I think they'd have to change their name from the Pinnacle to something a little more fitting. With a split between the two likely coming soon, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. While there has been speculation regarding the health of Vince McMahon and many fans thinking he could be stepping down and the company could be sold, Bruce Pritchard said on his podcast that the chairman is not going to be out of power anytime soon. Yeah, I can't imagine him not doing it, and I'm sure that he will continue to do it probably for the next 25 to 30 years. His mom's 101 and still going, so, he shows no signs of slowing down at all. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.